Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I am Brian, and today we're going to be taking a look at this Anker Powerhouse 767. Now gang, I've reviewed an absolute ton of power stations, from the smallest power stations up to the largest Blue Eddies and EcoFlows, and to date, I'll just tell you that this is the nicest, most refined power station that I've ever reviewed. And if you've ever looked at buying a little external phone charger or any type of those little power banks, you probably have heard of Anker. Now this is their first kind of dive into the larger power station segment. They do have some smaller models available, but this is the biggest model that they offer. Everything on this unit is just so much nicer than anything that I've ever had the opportunity to review. Now, obviously, gang, I'm not remiss to the fact that this thing is expensive, but if you are in the market or if you're looking for a large lithium iron phosphate power station, you've probably researched the Blue Eddy or the EcoFlow Delta Max or one of those larger power stations, and they're kind of all in the same price point. Right now for $1,999. Now, folks, I am not an affiliate of Anker, so I'm not going to get a penny if you do buy this, but there is going to be, I believe, a $300 off coupon code that's valid for 2 or 3 days max once I post this video down in the description below. So check that out if you're interested. What do you get with this giant big box? So it's got a 2048 watt hour lithium iron phosphate battery built inside of this thing, rated at up to 3,000 charge cycles. Once you get to 3,000 cycles, you're going to retain 80% of the original battery capacity. So guys, you're going to get 10 years out of use of this. And a lot of people say, well, something's going to break on this unit before you ever get to that. Well, Anker offers a bumper to bumper 5-year warranty on this power station. And if you have ever heard of Anker, they've been around for a long time, and a lot of times warranties are only as good as the company is behind them. I'm pretty sure Anker's going to be around for a while, so that 5-year warranty should hold some merit. Now, this also has a 2400 watt continuous rated pure sine inverter built into it at up to 3600 watt surge. They feature a thing called surge pad technology, and that's basically very similar to how EcoFlow does their surge inverter rating, meaning that once you get over 2400 watts, this device, this power station, will actually lower the voltage of whatever device you're trying to power over 2400 watts. So you got to be kind of careful if you're going to go over that 2400 rated continuous watts, because your voltage will lower, but it'll keep that device on. So a good example of that is like a very large space heater that's going to say maybe run 3000 watts. Once it gets over 2400 watts, it's going to lower that voltage, and you'll kind of hear the difference in that space heater. It's going to stay on, but it's not going to have the amount of velocity coming out of that front of that space heater because the voltage is dropped. So Anker has what they call GaN technology, and to put it the simplest that I can understand it is that most power stations use a silicone-based semiconductor. Anker uses what they call GaN, which is gallium nitride. So basically, this power station is just more efficient, it's smaller, it produces less heat than all of your other standard power stations. I don't know all the science behind it, and I don't want to act like I do, but I think some of my testing actually proves that this GaN technology built into this thing actually does work. Now, if you want to go research GaN charging technologies, Google's your best friend. And the actual build quality of this thing, again, is like a Sherman tank. It's got a unibody design, it's drop rated, there's nothing that's going to fall off or break on this unit, and it's just extremely tough. I've taken this out twice with the family camping, and with 2 kids, us getting tents put up, it got put to the paces, dragging it through the campground. And speaking of dragging, it does have a really nice retractable luggage style handle. So you just press a little button on the side and this thing opens up and you can actually wheel it around. And it makes it so much easier. And this thing pushes right back under the top deck of the power station, and you really forget it's there. It's not obtrusive. It doesn't stick out when you're not using it. So it's a really good design on that luggage handle. And you kind of need it because this thing weighs 67 pounds. So it's not lightweight, and you're not going to be throwing it over your back and walking through the woods with it. But that handle does make it easier to kind of tote around and get it to where it needs to go. And the Anker also does have app connectivity, so you can monitor and change a few settings via the app that I'll go over here in just a few minutes. But let's take a closer look at some of these ports, and then I'll get straight into the testing that I've done on this unit. So the main display screen is actually very bright and very easy to read. So you're going to have an actual percentage battery monitor as well as a battery graph gauge. You will have a runtime to empty display, and then you're going to have your input and output watts, as well as a few other displays that are not currently lit up that will show you over temperature, over voltage, different warnings that'll eventually pop up on the screen if you get to that point. But you do have down here 4 120 volt AC outlets. You also have a 30 amp RV plug. So this is great for if you want to hook it up to your RV or even a transfer switch. And then you do have two 12 volt style 10 amp regulated car sockets. So typically most power stations only have one. Now I know a lot of people either love these or hate these. I particularly use these a lot and I like having two of them. Famous Anker's charging ports. So you're going to get three 100 watt power deliveries. These are output only. You cannot charge the unit with it, but you really don't need it. So 100 watt output only, and then two quick charge USB-A's. And that's essentially it for the front. And then here in the back, you got a flap. And this is going to be where your solar input is connected. You've got a circuit reset switch, and then you've got your charging port to charge it up via your AC wall outlet. And down here, you've got your expansion battery input, and I will show you folks how that works here in just a second. Okay, so let's talk about the expansion battery now, because this unit is capable of doubling its watt hours with the Anker expansion battery. And it just nestles right on top. There really is no locking feature for this expansion battery, but it does fit pretty nicely, and it is the same width as the actual power station, so it doesn't take up a lot more room. Width-wise, obviously height it does. Now when you connect this expansion battery to the Anker, you're gonna get 4,096 watt hours worth of capacity. Now when you have this battery connected to the main unit, when you charge it up, the Anker 767 is always gonna take priority. So if both of these things are dead, down to 0%, when you plug this Anker in, it's going to charge this first. When this is full, it's going to charge the battery. When you go to discharge, it's going to discharge the expansion battery and then discharge the main Anker 767. And basically they do that is to make sure that this main unit always has more battery than the expansion battery. And to connect these two together, you have a massive, super heavy duty extension cord with a twist lock feature. So you're gonna pull down this flap on the expansion battery, you're gonna push in, and it locks into place. So now this cord is actually locked into place, and to disconnect it, you have to twist a dial and then pull it out. The bad thing about this, but it's the same for any power station that has an expansion battery, is this huge cord that comes out the back. So you can't push it flat up against a wall. You have to have about a foot worth of space to accommodate for this extension cord coming out of the back. Now, like Blue Eddies actually come out the side, and I believe EcoFlows come out the side, so you can push them up against the wall, but then you can't put anything next to it. So it's a give or take, but these cords do have to be very large for the amount of wattage that's going through them. Okay, so if you can see me, let me talk a little bit about the expansion battery, because I know you're gonna ask, can you use this battery as a standalone power station? No, you can't. There is no output ports on this battery station other than the connection port to connect it to the 767. So unlike the Blue Eddy expansion battery packs, they actually can be used as kind of a standalone power station with their USB ports and car sockets. This is only good to connect to the 767. And by the way, that expansion battery is $14.99 on Amazon as of today. But gang, that's it for all of the specs on this unit. Let me show you all the testing that I've done, and I've had this for about a month and a half now, so I've used it quite a bit, and I've actually taken it out twice on some camping trips. But let me show you the results that I found on some of my testing. So does this battery give you your money's worth? Meaning, are you actually able to pull out the rated capacity that Anker is stating that's inside this unit? So to test that, I hooked up an AC watt meter and I ran a load at 220 watts using incandescent lights. I let this battery station go all the way down to empty, and when I came back, I was able to pull out of this unit 1,811 watt hours. And that basically equates to 89 to 90% efficient. That's the best efficiency rating that I have ever had on any of these large power stations. Typically anything over 2,000 watt hours, you're gonna get 80 to 85%, 90% off of 220 watt AC discharge. So I wanted to also test with the expansion battery on it and to see how the efficiency rating would prove on that test. So I hooked up the expansion battery, I hooked up my watt meter, I ran the same incandescent light array, and I was able to get out of that AC discharge test 3,700 watt hours, which also equates to around 90% efficient. You can charge this unit at up to 1,400 watts. That's the max amount that you can charge this unit, and you can change that via the app, and I'll show that to you. But 1,400 watts max is gonna charge this unit to 80% in about an hour and a half. Besides AC, you can charge this unit via solar also, and they have supplied this XT60 kind of splitter adapter that you're going to plug into the solar input, and then you've got 5 XT60 inputs for your solar panels. Now, I will say that thanks to Will Prowse, he did note that when you have this plugged in and you're running solar panels and you don't have all of these XT60 inputs plugged in, these are live, and you could potentially be shocked if you touch these. I know Anker's looking at this to try to remedy it or even update the firmware, but as of right now, I haven't heard anything else. So I don't know if I would use this at this point in time, but you can get up to 1,000 watts worth of solar input on this, rated from 11 to 60 volts. Real nice DC to XT60 charging cord that you can plug into your car or your truck or your RV and kind of charge this thing on the road at up to 10 amps. Now, one of the other great things about this unit, and I think it ties into that GaN technology, is that take a look at this clip where I was charging at 1400 watts. During that charging time, I pulled out my decibel meter and I was getting around 37 decibels charging at max rate. 37 decibels is whisper quiet. Again, I don't have any other power stations that are this quiet when charging, especially at max rate. So guys, you could put this next to your bed and charge at 1400 watts and you literally can't really hear it. It is that quiet. So let's jump over to some more testing I did showing the inverter and its capabilities. As for the inverter testing of this unit, I've got a 1500 watt space heater, a 500 watt space heater, and I've got my multimeter hooked up so you can watch the voltage as these heaters are turned on. So again, this is a 2400 watt rated continuous inverter built into it, and it does have a 3600 watt surge rating, and they call that their surge pad technology. It's very similar to like the EcoFlow version, to where it reduces the voltage once it gets past 2400 watts. So you have to be careful what you use once you go over 2400 watts, but it'll keep an appliance running. Okay, we're right at around 1450 watts, jumped up to 1600, and that'll slowly come down once these coils heat up, and we're still maintaining 119 volts. Still maintaining 119 volts, 1800 watts. Okay, we're kind of averaging around 1730 watts, still maintaining 119 volts. I am going to hook up a heat gun to this last outlet and try to push it up to at least 2400 watts, but that's loud. But before I do that, I want to show you the sine wave on this thing. And that's absolutely perfectly clean energy coming out of this unit. And that is again at 1700 watts. Now it's time for the big guy. Okay, the fans finally did kick on. We're at around 2150 watts, 119 volts, 2300 watts, 118 volts. Okay, so with the surge pad technology, I've got this at full blast, and it's really only letting me get up to around 2320 volts max. That's because it's lowering the voltage of this heat gun to allow it to keep running. However, again, it does lower the voltage, so the output's not as strong. It is still hot, but it's not as strong as normal. What's so impressive to me is that we're still maintaining right at around 119 volts, running 2300 watts. So let's check out this power station's USB ports. These are rated at 100 watts, so let's make sure that they do output 100 watts into this power station. So we're gonna plug this in. Okay, so I'm getting 90 watts input into my Energizer power station, and it's showing 100 watts up here on the Anker. There is some conversion loss between coming from this unit to this unit, so this is a valid 100 watt USB-C output. So let's try another port and make sure it's maintaining. Okay, so same deal. Right around 100 watts output on the Anker. I'm getting 90 watts input into the Energizer, again because of the conversion loss. But these USB-C ports are working and outputting 100 watts just as they should. This unit does have a UPS function built inside of it at a rated less than 20 milliseconds switchover. So what that means is you can keep an appliance plugged into this unit while this unit's plugged into your home outlet. And in the event of a power surge or power failure, this unit will actually transfer the power from the wall directly to the battery, thus powering whatever appliance you have plugged into the front. And I've done this before, but the best way for me to show it to you is using incandescent lights. So I'm going to unplug the AC cord that I have plugged into my wall outlet, and you'll see these lights flicker for a brief second. 3, 2, 1. There you go. I don't know if you can see that tiny little flicker in those lights, but that is the power diverted from the wall directly into the battery, then powering that. So again, less than 20 milliseconds on this UPS. So obviously no issues with the inverter, very strong performer. UPS function works great. And by the way, I didn't mention that in the video, the UPS function powers up to 1400 watts. So the UPS function will work on an appliance up to 1400 watts. Anything over that and it's not gonna work. So just keep that in mind. So let me show you guys the app that you can download to actually connect to this unit and change a few things. So when you download the app, you'll have to create an account and then you're gonna get to this screen and you can click on your power station and it pulls up all of the main pertinent information. So right now you can see my unit's at 100%. The internal battery temperature is 55 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see your input, your DC and your AC input if you're charging it at that time. And then you've got your AC and USB and carport output display as well. And you can turn on and off that 12-volt car cigarette style plug right there. And it's got a power saving mode, so this is an important feature I need to talk about. If you have this thing turned on, this unit will cut itself off after 15 minutes after it detects no load. I personally have the power saving mode turned off because I don't want this unit to turn off on its own. I want to be in charge of when it cuts on and off. However, if you're trying to run, say, a compressor style fridge overnight, you want that power saving mode turned off because that compressor doesn't run continuously all the time, and this might actually cut that fridge off if you have power saving mode on. So long story short, I just turned power saving mode off because I want to be in charge of when it cuts itself on or off. And you can actually turn on the LED light up front via this app, so you can obviously keep it off, low, medium, and high. And I will say this is a very nice LED light. It's a very warm light. It's not going to blind you in the middle of the night in a dark tent. So we actually did like this LED light on our last tent camping trip. Now you can go up here into settings, and this is where you can adjust your AC charging speed. So you can go from 200 watts all the way up to 1440 watts. And you can toggle on and off the SOS mode on the LED light. And I don't know why any manufacturer still puts SOS modes on their LED lights, because it's just a feature that you have to toggle through to get to where you want to go. So I like that you can actually turn off the SOS mode. You can adjust your LED screen brightness all the way from low, medium, high, and you can cut it off as you can see here, but I'll keep it on high for this video. And you can adjust how long you want that screen to stay on, all the way from 20 seconds up to 30 minutes. There is not a indefinite feature, so the longest that screen will stay on is 30 minutes. You can of course rename it to whatever you want to name it. You can change the temperature settings from Fahrenheit to Celsius, and you can go in there and make sure that you have the latest firmware installed on this unit. But that's kind of it for the app and in terms of all the features that you're going to get. So that's a wrap for the Anker Powerhouse 767. Now again, this is the largest unit that they offer. They do have other smaller units like the Anker 521, the 535, the 555, and the 757. So they do have quite a few models, this of course being the biggest, and when you add on that expansion battery, they don't have anything close to this capability. This thing's great. The only thing it would not do was run my RV air conditioning unit off of that 30 amp port. I have a 13,500 AC unit and it just simply would not cut it on. If you have an RV with a 5,000 or even an 8,000 window unit, this would run it just fine, but that 13.5 BTU AC unit was just a little bit too much in terms of a surge startup for this thing to handle. But it ran everything else on that RV absolutely just perfectly fine, but that AC is just a little too big for this thing to run it. As far as the performance and the build quality and the 5-year warranty, everything about this unit is just fantastic. And I think they're really truly going to give Blue Eddy and EcoFlow a big run for their money if they continue to put out power stations of this quality. You know, competition in a marketplace is the absolute best. It just gives us the best products at the best price we can get. And I love that Anker is jumping into the big power station market. So folks, again, remember, check out the description below because I do believe I'll have a $300 off coupon for the power station. It doesn't apply to the expansion battery, but you can get this with a coupon for about 2 or 3 days, I believe, for $16.99, which is $300 off from the MSRP. Folks, that's my review on this Anker Powerhouse 767. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you soon. Take care.